Hello, everybody, and welcome back. Today, we are going to be talking about something that is a bit controversial right now. And I'm going to be talking about what I think possuming is in competitive Pauper Commander and how it impacts the format as a whole. This is a topic that was recently spoken about over on the Common Connoisseurs YouTube channel with 4 of the Rules Committee members, so I'll leave a link in the description down below if you guys want to go check that out. But this is a topic that I think is fairly important to address, and everyone's going to have a different take on what it is and what it means for the format. So, for me, possuming is not as much of a gameplay issue or decisions that are made in game. For me, it's more of a deck building issue. So, for example, if we take a look at 2 commanders like Cryptic Serpent and Sailor's Bane. Sailor's Bane is almost just a pure straight up upgrade over Cryptic Serpent in basically every way. Just because it's bigger, it has inherent protection, it gets a little bit of a bonus on that adventure piece. So the only argument that can really be made for Cryptic Serpent is the typing, which is pretty irrelevant in our format, and the fact that its CMC is too lower, inherently. However, for the most part for this deck, that 5+2 blue versus 7+2 blue is pretty irrelevant, since most of the time, both of these cards are going to cost 2 blue. So, in my mind, possuming would be saying actively going out of your way to play Cryptic Serpent instead of Sailor's Bane because it is worse. If you are going out of your way to actively choose a worse option because it is worse and you will be targeted less, that is possuming, and I do not think that's healthy for the competitive format because we are always trying to win in the most efficient way possible. So if we are intentionally choosing cards that are not as powerful, then that isn't competitive in my mind. You're not trying to win to the best of your ability when you have a better option right there. So that's where I see possuming the most in my mind, is in the deck building. This can happen in the 99 as well. So, if there's 2 cards that are near identical, like, for instance, in Gretchen, there's land untappers like Wandering Satyr, I think. That's a 2-mana untapper versus a Ley Druid, which costs 3 mana. And there are some very, very specific differences between the two, but for the most part, Wandering Satyr is just better. But if you actively choose to play Ley Druid instead, because you think it's less of a threat, people will remove it less, even though it's just worse. That would be possuming. Some things that are not possuming are things like slow rolling your hand out or holding back because you know someone has a board wipe. Things of that nature. Like in the RIW tournament, I was playing against B-Fine's Floodgate deck, which is a board wipe that just sits on the field and is ready to board wipe by flickering the commander at any point. So in that game, I was going out of my way to only have 1 land untapper in play at a time. Even though I had another one in hand, I was saving it ready to redeploy it. And that's not possuming, because that is taking proactive measures to ensure that I can win the game. while I'm sandbagging the land untappers and not playing as fast as possible, that's because it increases my chances of winning, and that is competitive. Some other things that are not possuming would be, for instance, commanders that are similar but different. Let's take, for example, Sprite Dragon, a deck that showed up represented by 2 players in the RIW event. A deck that is classically not seen in competitive play in the online meta. This is a deck that sees a lot of play in 1v1, Pauper Dual Commander, and is very strong in that format. But in multiplayer, we don't see it much. Typically, in multiplayer, we see Crackling Drake more often. Now, choosing to play Sprite Dragon instead of Crackling Drake is not directly possuming, because an argument can be made for playing Sprite Dragon over Crackling Drake because it is cheaper and it has haste and it gets bigger permanently. It gets those counters permanently. If your graveyard gets exiled, you don't just lose all of your power like you do with Crackling Drake. Additionally, Crackling Drake can play some different lines by playing Flicker Combo and using its commander as an outlet, but it costs twice as much as the Sprite Dragon. So the decks are different, functionally different, to a point that you can argue playing one over the other. Now, if one is objectively stronger than the other, that can't really be said, which means that whatever the player believes is better and they choose to play, they are not possuming by doing that. They're just playing what they think is stronger. Regardless of if everyone agrees or disagrees with them, that doesn't matter because it's not an objective one is just better than the other. I also do not think politics are possuming. If I go and make a deal with somebody else to not swing at me and then I'll not swing at them, things of that nature, that's not possuming. That's politics. Straight up. Things that are possuming are like I said, intentionally playing worse cards or strategies that you think are objectively worse in a deck, just so that you can tell people, I'm not playing the good version, and actively making your deck weaker. That's possuming, and that's not healthy, because then we are not truly playing to try to win. If we are intentionally reducing our chance of winning. Now, if it turns out that that version is stronger, then we just found something new, and cool. But if it is weaker, and you win a couple games because people just ignore you, because you said, oh, I'm playing a weaker version, if you come out and win those games, that's fine. You might win some games like that, but at the end of the day, the decks that are truly just playing the absolute best that they can will probably have a higher win rate, even in this format where card quality is lower than in normal Commander, things of that nature. Even in this format, I do believe that the strongest decks that exist in the format are strong enough that they can still win, even if they get 3v1'd. And they shouldn't be getting 3v1'd if everyone is truly playing the strongest things that they possibly can, or things that are actively trying to win. Those 3v1 scenarios don't happen anywhere near as much as they have in the past. So I think as the format develops, possuming, in my definition of possuming, will kind of weed itself out, because those decks will eventually just not win enough. They will not perform well enough, even if you do win a game here or there off of the back of telling people you're not playing combo Tatiova, you're playing beatdown Tatiova. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to leave a comment down below if you agree, if you disagree, if you have a completely different definition of what possuming is in the first place. Absolutely let me know down in the comments. Subscribe if you aren't already while you're down there, leave a like, and I'll see y'all next time.